What up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about something I'm really excited about. I've never talked about it before on the channel, but I am low-key a giant fucking nerd when it comes to operating systems and virtual machines and shit like that. So I figured, why not talk about it? Why not talk about the pros and cons? And, just kind of talk about my passion. This is something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time, and I never felt it was right for the channel, but you know what? I've recently come to the conclusion that it doesn't fucking matter what is, quote, right for the channel. You can't see it, but I'm doing air quotes. Anyway, so, I guess to start this video off, I do use Windows. I'm not an elitist when it comes to any particular operating system, but I want to state that I do use Windows because I like it when my programs work. When I don't have to go through and I have to, find a repository that has this patch for this one bug that I've encountered on Linux. And I also want to say that I use Linux because I like the freedom that it gives me. I like being able to customize my operating system in any way that I see fit. If I don't like something, I can just remove it. If I like something, I can make it better or try and find some sort of way to enhance what it does. And I feel like the open source community is really awesome for that because there's constantly people making changes to certain software that people use on Linux all the time. Another reason that I use Linux is because I like messing with things. I like fucking with things. I like being able to just sit there and mess with stuff. I'm very intrigued by things and how they work. I know that was a very general statement, but I just like learning how things work. I like getting under the hood with things. I like learning the whys of things, and I just feel like Linux is really cool because it's very transparent in that it shows you, like, for example, a lot of Linux distros are very open source when it comes to software. I know I've probably said that already, but and I really like, that vibe of being open, that vibe of letting people see in. Not only that, but being open source makes it really secure as well because it's very hard to hide malicious software in a system where everything is open, where everyone can see everything at any time. Not saying that Linux is perfect, because you know what? Linux can get viruses. Let me put that out there. Linux can get viruses, okay? Okay, that's not a debate. That is a thing. That does happen. But let's face it, Linux takes up about 2% of the global PC market share or something like that. I forget if it's 2 or 1%, but yeah, it's something really small like that. So the chances of that happening are very slim, although I don't advise anybody click on any weird links or anything like that, because that's just fucking that's a way to like give your computer some issues, and yeah, that's not good. That's really fucking dumb. Okay? Don't do that. Another reason I like Linux is because of something called I think it's QEMU, yeah, QEMU, and KVM, and what those are I don't know the right word for it, but I know that KVM stands for kernel virtual machine, and QEMU is an environment within that, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong, probably am wrong. Anyway, KVM, what it allows me to do is run virtual machines at the kernel level, which increases performance. Now, on the system that I'm running Linux on currently, I can't really utilize KVM because it I don't know, my CPU doesn't support virtualization in my other computer. By the way, it's not the computer I'm recording this on. I know that this one for a fact does support virtualization. I've looked in the BIOS, but anyway, so yeah, I like the fact that I can run a virtual machine at native performance pretty much, and that opens up so many cool opportunities. For example, I've been fucking around with a lot of Linux distributions. I've tried Kubuntu, I've tried Arch. I actually installed Arch on a VM, so I guess I can pull I use Arch now. I mean, I will eventually, but anyway, I use Ubuntu currently because that's what I'm most familiar with. I'm familiar with the terminal commands. I'm familiar with how to do things, at least on a very basic level. And I don't know, it just feels familiar. That being said, I'm not a big fan of the GNOME desktop. I do want to change it. In fact, I did try to install KDE, but I don't know. GNOME and KDE don't get along, so I had to go back to my backup. And while I'm talking about it, you always should make a backup of some kind, and you should really just be cognizant of your computer and what you put on it. Don't just click buttons and be like, oh, this'll do the thing, that I needed to do. But really research what you put on your machine, because you don't know. You just don't know. And yeah, keep yourself safe. But another reason I like Linux is because of the fact that I can customize it. I know I already said that, but I want to go into a little bit more detail here. So like, if I don't like some sort of core feature in my desktop environment, like let's say there's a dock at the corner with some icons in it and I don't like it, I can just get rid of it. And the power that gives me as an end user, as somebody who's like, if I see a thing and I don't like it, I can just get rid of it. Like, that's so cool. And not only that, but I feel like the Linux community is very helpful if you're willing to learn. Now, let me emphasize that. If you're willing to learn, because if you're not willing to learn and you're kind of beating yourself up and just being kind of rude to people, in at least from what I've seen, people aren't so willing to help. And it's not so much the beating yourself up, it's more of, you taking your anger out on other people. That's not cool. So, yeah, but I do feel like generally, especially in the Ubuntu circle of things, because it is such a beginner-friendly distro, I feel like a lot of people are really willing to show people the ropes as far as Linux is concerned. And I don't know, it's just a cool little community. It's cool that, like, you can go online and be like, I'm having this very specific problem, can somebody help me? And then somebody posts the terminal commands like 6 years ago and you're like, oh shit, this still works. And you can just copy and paste and put it in terminal, boom, fucking done. And sometimes they even tell you what they do. I'm kidding. But yeah, it's just really cool to see how your computer works from such a insider perspective, and I feel like that's something that Linux gives you that a lot of other operating systems just don't. But then again, let me talk about Windows for a bit. So I like Windows just because I'm familiar with it. It just fucking works. Now I could go down the route of saying Windows is good for gaming, which I'm not gonna do that because that's obvious. But I will say that Windows is great because when you click things, 99% of the time they just fucking work. When you click things on Linux, okay, I guess we'll have to use games in an example, but let's say I want to play a game, right? And I click a button, and it works for a little while, and then it freezes. Okay? Now I've had that happen quite a few times. I've played a few games on Linux just to kind of see what it was like. I used Proton. I even tried games that were natively supported by Linux, although I feel like some of those games are just ran through Proton. But anyway, so like having issues in software availability and like compatibility for some things is just kind of a deal breaker for me. I love Linux. Let me make that very clear. I love Linux and I love the freedom that it offers me. I do not like the lack of software availability. For example, I use a lot of the Adobe suite, and I know that people are going to bitch at me and say that it's proprietary. Why are you using that? You don't know what's in it. You don't know what it's doing. You don't know, all this shit. And my answer is I'm fucking comfortable with it. And like, if you're comfortable with something, like, why change? Especially, if it's something you've been using for a long time, and it's the only software that I use to edit my videos. I don't think I could switch to like Kdenlive or DaVinci Resolve just because it's of the learning curve. It's not necessarily the software that's the problem, it's the learning curve. It's the taking you out of your comfort zone and having to learn things again because use Linux. And I hate that mentality of elitism that the Linux community has, where they're all like, oh yeah, you should just use Linux. But what if I don't want to? What if I just don't feel like it? And I feel like that's a thing that a lot of Linux users, a lot of seasoned hardcore veteran Linux users just don't get. Like, sometimes Linux isn't good for certain things. There, I said it. I said the thing that nobody wants to hear. But yeah, Linux is not good for certain things, and I feel like gaming is one of them. I said I was going to stay away from gaming, but I guess we've kind of circled back around here. And I would say creative work, because there's just a lot of apps that just don't work. For example, here's another example. So I make music, right? And a lot of the VST plugins that I use are .dll files. And I believe that a lot of them were written specifically for Windows. Not the DLL files, by the way. The plugins that I use are what I'm talking about. I could be wrong there. You could be able to emulate it through Wine. You could be able to do a lot of things, but I just find that for reliability, using something like Windows, or dare I even say it, Mac, and I don't know why, but talking about Mac makes me feel weird because it's so overpriced. But anyway, that's beside the point. But I need a system where all of those programs, whether it be Ableton Live, which is what I use to make music, FL Studios is another program I use, but not so often because I don't like it. But yeah, I need a software where all of those options are available to me at once. I feel like Linux just doesn't provide that. I feel like Linux is very limiting in that department. But at the same time, I'm not saying it's not possible that something could come out of Linux that is the same or better. It is possible. It's just not there right now. And that's why I don't use it as often as I would like to. Another thing that I will say is I like how when you run an app in a terminal, you can see what it's doing, at least on a very basic level. I don't know why, but I just like seeing, I like that sense of transparency that Linux gives you. And, I don't know, it's just a fun thing for me to mess with at the end of the day. Like, I just like messing with things, and that's what Linux allows me to do. It allows me to if I don't like a window, I can move it. If I don't like a certain thing, I can get rid of it. I know I've said that 3 times now, but the point remains that I can do anything that I want to my OS, good or bad. Sometimes you can end up breaking your OS. I've done that before. I've installed multiple desktop environments, and they started arguing with each other, and lo and behold, some of the icons wouldn't go away because it was the fault of one desktop environment messing with another one, and it's just really confusing and something I didn't want to deal with. So what I did was I made a restore point to before I did all of that, and it fixed it. But sometimes Linux gives you a little too much freedom in that you can easily break shit, but some people might want to break their OS, and if you want to do that, more power to you. Anyway, this was just a little rant about Windows, Linux, and just operating systems I use and kind of why I use them. And I'm probably not going to edit this too much as far as the audio goes, because I want it to be just kind of off the top of my head, even if it's kind of cringe. Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hit that dislike button and sound off in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. If you like this kind of content, we can keep it up. Maybe next time we can talk more about virtual machines. And yeah, have some fun. But anyway, this has been Plant. I will see you guys later. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe button.